Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Waffle session in the hot boxes. Myself and Alexei are currently roasting here in the UK due to this incredible heat wave we're going through. We're back again on Trafford Talk because we're both two very bored men who are desperate for. Well, we don't want to offend children here, but we're trying to enjoy life without getting, trying to avoid life getting boring faster than you can imagine. I can't think of a more inherent way of saying it, so I'm just going to introduce Alexei because he hasn't been on for a while. He's been very busy. How is everything, mate? And more importantly, are you still sane despite this stupidity that's been going on in the last few days?
Yeah, I mean, I've just been working a lot, to be honest. I mean, obviously after the Euros final, I needed a bit of time to kind of get over that because that was very hard to take. And yeah, now we're just in a massive heat wave. It's boiling. I feel like I'm drowning in my own sweat, which is really pleasant. But yeah, now it's just all the kind of Sancho Varane stuff going on, isn't it? And it's just like, oh, when's it going to end? Honestly, I feel like it's been like quite a big period of my life, this Sancho transfer saga. I think it's about a tenth of my life has been spent when I was trying to sign the man. We've still not announced it, obviously, Varane. But I mean, to be honest, when the Euros finished and we lost on penalties, I was really angry at football for a couple of days. And then I just saw a picture of like Cavani and Lee Grant or something in training. And that kind of got me, excited for football again. So it's only a few weeks till the season starts now, isn't it?
Yeah, we're not far away. August the 14th, we kick off our competitive football against Leeds United, and we again aim to win the quadruple as always from the first whistle. But yeah, we have a lot of football to play, and I feel we've had an okay preseason, even without the main protagonists being available because of their exploits in Europe. We should be getting a few of them back very, very, very soon. But obviously, since you were last here, we announced Sancho. We had obviously the relative news that we're stepping up in the market and everything. So I'm keen to know from your part because obviously time is a funny thing and things happen in that period. After obviously being disappointed over England's defeat, and I mean all of us were, after being disappointed over England's defeat and all various other matters, what for you is now considered to be a good season for Man United? Because I had an argument with a fan on Twitter yesterday, or this morning, in fact, that Ollie bottling 5 semi-finals, the typical spiel about he's not good as a manager and all that jazz. Basically, I would consider someone who's not as clued up on United as most of us are. Thinks that not winning a trophy in 5 attempts is a sackable offence. So, in regards to this upcoming season, what realistically for you, Alexei, is a good season?
I know it's a non-answer. It's kind of a politician's answer, but I think it all depends on what happens in the transfer window. I think if Varane and Trippier and a holding midfielder come in, you would be expecting a title challenge, and you would be expecting a trophy as kind of a minimum expectation, I think. I mean, it's difficult with a trophy thing, isn't it? Because I think he does need to win a trophy. I think that's obvious. But this kind of thing of he gets sacked. Because what happens, right? Would you rather? I mean, this is one of those philosophical questions. Would you rather come 10th next season, but Ollie wins the FA Cup or the League Cup, or come second by 1 point, or lose on goal difference or whatever? Because obviously losing on goal difference is painful, but it shows you're actually getting close to winning a title. I think, Van Gaal got sacked for 5th in the FA Cup. I mean, I do think we really need a trophy, and obviously we're not going to come 10th, but I just want to see us to get towards winning a league. That's what I want to see. That's what I want. Obviously, I'd love to win FA Cups and League Cups and all that. Like, I'm not disputing that. I'd love it. I love finals. It's a great day out or whatever, but I just want to win the league. Like with United, it's kind of, I count the trophies for United really as the Champions League and the Premier League. They're like our big trophies. I would have loved to have won the Europa League, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I mean, I think, we need to start strong this season because we haven't done that in previous seasons. But I don't see why we can't have a pretty sustained title challenge, to be honest. I think we should have a sustained title challenge, but expectations change over the season. Like last season in November, if you said we were going to come second, everyone would be like, there's no way. But then when we ended up coming second, it was a bit disappointing because we were first at one point. So yeah, expectations change over a season, but I think my expectation of next season minimum would be kind of top 2 and a trophy, which nearly happened last season. But that's kind of what's got to happen in my view, because ultimately we are Manchester United. We haven't won anything for 5 years, but it will be 5 years next season. But it depends on the signings. If we just get Sancho and that's it, I'm not any more confident of us winning a league than I was this season, to be honest. But yeah, I'd say minimum second and a trophy probably, but it's hard to put it down definitively because obviously, the goalposts change throughout the season. But what would you say is your expectation?
Well, I ask you this because I've pondered a lot since the Europa League final on Manchester United's future in terms of what is constituted as progress. And the arguments I had with the fan last night sort of opened my eyes a little bit more as to the lack thereof of belief that we have progressed as a football team. Obviously, people will think a big club of our standard don't need to be in this position, especially when we have we're probably the best we're the best team in the world when it comes to obviously revenues and making money, or one of the best in the world when it comes to developing academy talent. But it's off the pitch we do so much, but on it lacks that cutting edge or that winning factor. Previously or prior to Ollie's arrival, that winning factor that made us such a fearsome team. Obviously, it's well documented how the years between Alex Ferguson's retirement and let's say Jose's arrival, which I think is the turning point of when United started to not necessarily regress further backwards despite winning stuff. I felt then, even though we were winning two trophies that season in 2017, we didn't exactly solve a lot of our problems under Mourinho. And then look further forward, he struggles in the early part of the 18-19 season where you get sacked. So Ollie comes in, more or less steadies the ship, struggles towards the end of the season. We give him a long-term contract, and we see how he fares. His first season, he had obviously, I think we can safely agree, in terms of quality, he had a threadbare squad. He didn't have as much of the quality of the standard of player that you needed to have at Manchester United. I mean, you could depend on Ander Herrera, you could depend on Marcus Rashford, and if he wasn't fit and having a bad game, Anthony Martial. Paul Pogba being the focal point of the team, and he got him to be the main man when he came in to get just doing what he does best: get forward, create chances, do something to benefit the squad, and increase our chances of being in the Champions League. In that, obviously, the following season, we saw less of Pogba. We saw more of Martial as an attacking threat. We saw more of a collective workhorse sort of mentality being applied to the team. The only problem I felt we had was obviously no creative outlet. Bruno came in, changed that a lot. United started winning more penalties because we're not only using him as the focal point, but we're sort of using him as a decoy so that teams don't know exactly how to play against us. So I attribute, obviously, Bruno Fernandes's arrival to a huge step in the right direction for United when it comes to the present day. And now last season, obviously we finished third, got fire in 3 competitions. Should have probably won at least one of the 3, but I feel, as I said many times, we made a calculated decision in the FA Cup. We struggled in the League Cup against City, despite playing very well in the second leg. Should have got something more out of that game. And yeah, for me, as I said in 2020, the Europa League, we should have won that, but average performance against Sevilla just didn't cut it. Against a side who wanted it more, you tend to lose to sides like that when you don't turn up. So yeah, that was a problem. So he had obviously that period after the Europa League run was over to sort of like refresh a bit. No preseason, of course. Literally no time to prepare, and he took this squad that more or less having now renewed confidence not only in the likes of Mason Greenwood's rise, scoring 17 odd goals in his first season, Martial hitting 20, and it looked like we had a fearsome from three. We were sort of fixing our midfield. We had our defense partly mended with Maguire and Bissaka. He just needed increased strength. But it was somewhat clear to see that we didn't necessarily need to worry too much about that in the later, like not early on because we were struggling so badly early on in 2020. But we sort of we regressed a bit at the start of the season, gave it a bit of time. But when we won in Paris in October, early on in October, that for me is where we sort of started to improve as a team. We started winning a couple games in a row. Performed, I think, particularly against Southampton. I think it's a big point of which you could see the potential of the team. We'd brought in Cavani, obviously, at this point. Alex Tellez as well. Didn't get Sancho. We should have by then. Agreed to deal with two players. One that was destined for the youth team. One that is only 18 and has only graced 40. Had at the time graced 46 minutes of professional football. But he's done well since. For me, Oli needed, I think, all of his targets in before the start of the season. But with a short preseason like that and what looks like largely incompetent behaviour from our owners, he didn't get that, which is very disappointing. We get through the season. Southampton happens, I feel, which is our Leipzig as well. Two of our big moments in our season early on. Then lose to Arsenal, lose the reverse to Leipzig in the Champions League, which again showed flaws in United's incapabilities and in some ways, fair criticism, Ollie's incapability to chop and change a bit or to try and adapt to different systems. We get to the second half of the season, he changes it all. We go unbeaten for a long time. Yeah, we lose to Sheffield United. We lose in the EFL Cup semi-final again, which again, other than Ruben Diaz playing a blinder, we should probably still have given City a much harder game than that. What else? We had a good Europa League run early on. Sociedad ditched to the curb. I feel we should have probably done better in the second leg. What was it? Last 16 against Milan. Last minute equaliser. Still managed to go through. Got to March. Still, I think, just rebuilding keeping our domestic run going. Lose to Leicester in the FA Cup. Probably our best chance of winning a trophy after sacrificing one. It was about sacrificing one or the other again, and he chose the Europa League over the FA Cup. So unfortunately, we played poorly against Leicester. We should still, with the team we had, beat them. And yeah, by then we probably had second secured. So really, it was just putting our eggs into the Europa League basket. And ultimately, in the final, we lacked that. What I said earlier is that cutting edge in a game which has high stakes and would always lead to potentially going one way or the other. We didn't at all play well in parts of the game. We did dominate it by the looks of it, but more or less Villarreal were happy to sit, just absorb pressure and see the game through, even after we equalised. And I think he has taken a lot of that game. I think Ollie's put in his mind to say, from here on out, if I am in a scenario like that again in a final, and I hope he has, this will probably change his way of thinking about how he deals with it at the time. So the substitutions maybe, or selection of penalty takers, maybe even tactical decisions he made before the match. Because who knows if he sticks with the team he started with, I think we could have. And Maguire wasn't injured, I think we would have been fine. But yeah. Well, it was.
Yeah,
What was it to you? Was it to be?
we saw that with England, though, didn't we? That they lost the semi-final against Croatia, but against Denmark, it felt like they've learned the lessons. But then they'd lost the final, so I feel like next time England are in the final, they'll probably win it. Same with City and PSG. And Tottenham won't be in another one, but
Not for a while. I mean, the Conference League is a tricky league, in my opinion.
Teams who lose finals tend to learn from it. Like Chelsea in 2008, for example. Milan lost to Liverpool and then beat them 2 years later. Like, it happens a lot. So I think if we were in another final, we probably would win it, to be honest. And I think we should want. I've got some quite interesting news, quite random news. Do you remember Louis van Gaal?
Yes, I have.
He is now the manager of Holland.
This is ironic. that is ironic. As you're saying this, I'm currently watching. It's half time now. PSV versus Galatasaray. It's a good game. It's 2-1 at the moment to Eindhoven. But I'm sure that news has filtered through to the masses of fans that are in the stadium that he's back as manager of Holland, which I think for Dutch football, it's not the worst decision in the world. But does that constitute a fair opportunity in terms of, you know, him giving the sort of players we think are good for a certain team in a chance in the national team? I don't know. I'm a bit mixed on that one, really. I'm a bit mixed, but hopefully, yeah, it will be. I just hope that. Yeah, he's a strange character. I think we know enough about him to discover that. But no, I feel he has every chance to get the best out of that team. He did so in the World Cup previously. If he can, I think, if he gets the best out of the Depays, the De Jongs, Van der Beeks, the Van Dijks of the world, if he can get the best out of them, the Dutch will probably be as good a team as any, in my opinion, in the competition. They didn't have, obviously, for me, the team ethic in that game against the Czech Republic. They did everything in the group stage right, but couldn't stop conceding. And I felt that's where their problems really would start to probably be exposed in the knockout stages, even if they did get as far as what I hoped were the quarterfinals. For them to be, you know, jettisoned out the way they did against the Czech Republic will definitely play on a lot of their fans' minds. But yeah, you can only wonder with them whether they are able to, with Van Gaal, rekindle that form of 2014. I think they can. But it won't be as easy as people think it will be. So, tough call.
He can only be better than Frank de Boer.
Ronald de Boer Frank de Boer, sorry, you're right. Frank de Boer has had a horrible management career, hasn't he? I think he's never had the. I can't blame him for bad luck, but I don't think he's been the most sought after candidate for me.
I think he's one of the worst managers ever, probably, isn't he? I think, in all honesty. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, sorry, like I took us on a bit of a tangent there because of that news. But I mean, I think when you look at it objectively, like the way you just kind of said it all, like kind of how the journey we've been on, we are on the up. And I think like next season, for example, fans being back is going to help us a lot. It's going to help me a lot. Saying that.
But mate, it's not all of us. No, we share your. I do especially. I share your excitement at the fact we are going to have fans back in the grounds. We are going to be able to enjoy football as we know it, rather than how we've been experiencing it from our sofas for the last 17, 18 months. From a selfish point, as a commentator, I like it when the fans are there. I prefer the raw atmosphere of the stadium with people in it, rather than the soulless bowls that I've stood in the last year or so. The Euros obviously were great for fans being there. Obviously, the increasing attendance and culminating I think mainly in the final, which. Yeah, for an experience, the game itself wasn't the best, but the crowd albeit with what happened overall. But the crowd that night were fantastic, and you can't buy that atmosphere. Normally, you really just you grow that. You have to, I think, attach yourself to the people, and you're not going to always have this with most teams. Like, we do it relatively well, but have our common grounds on specific issues that we know of, i.e., you know what. But also the fact that we'll be there next season now, not for like 2 or 3 games, but for more than that, we can certainly play a part in helping United go over the line.
I'm not being funny, right? Our home form would not be that poor if fans were there last season. I just don't think it would, First game back, Leeds at home. In a couple of weeks' time. I cannot wait, honestly, in Champions League games as well. I just hope...
Yeah, that's so exciting. So exciting.
Hope Boris Johnson doesn't put us in another lockdown, to be honest, but...
You have to survive the summer first, mate, and I'm getting pronged very soon. So hopefully, the sooner I get pronged, and double pronged, I should say, the better, so that we don't have to be queued up outside waiting for people to deal with their nonsense with vaccine passports. Speaking of which, obviously, if you're not in the UK, this will be of interest. We here in England are very annoyed about government plans or local plans to force us, the common man or human woman or child, probably man and woman at this point, or anything else, non-binary, transgender, whoever you are. Let's be fair to everybody. Let's say at the moment there are plans for vaccine passports to be a mandatory thing in grounds. So obviously, if you get double jabbed, you get access to big events with crowds in them, with people, jumping up and down for the same cause or one another. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I'm also obviously with the last few months in particular, dissatisfied with the fact that we should, ease out of lockdowns as if the pandemic never happened. But I just wanted to get your thought on it, Alexei. Is it you work obviously right now? It must be a strange atmosphere with this freedom thing we're doing. Like, what is it like for you to hear that kind of thing? And then on the flip side, I work almost every day, and this is what I hear. It must sound mad.
Well, so we're talking about vaccine passports, right?
It's planned. It's not official. It's just planned, as I understand.
To be honest, it's difficult. I get the ethical point of view, but I get the logistic of it. Obviously, the problem is a lot of people can't have vaccines for medical reasons, which is obviously very unfortunate. But the thing is, if it's that or grounds are completely shut in the winter months, because it's going to soar in the winter months, I do kind of get it. But equally, I think it's probably not going to happen because Labour are going to vote against it, it seems. The Lib Dems are going to vote against it, and there's a massive Tory rebellion against it. So I think it won't go through, Ahmed, to be honest. And it would be a big defeat for the government, a huge defeat. I mean, the problem with it is the whole vaccine passport thing. Problem in general, isn't it? It's a digitalization of football, which might seem logical, but if you're like kind of, a lot of people go who are like, 70, 80 years old, go to a game, right? They might not have a phone that has an NHS app with a code. And same with the season tickets, they're digital now. They might not have these things, and it's just another thing to bring to a match. I mean, out of interest, so your opposition to it, does it come from kind of like a freedom point of view?
Like for me, I think of it as a balanced thing. For me, I'm all for you. We want to come in to protect those that are vulnerable, that are susceptible to catching the virus or anything, even the flu, for example. The flu is a deadly thing. We tend to ignore it as such normally, but it is still a very deadly virus, the flu. But no, I'm all for obviously, making sure everyone's safe and looks after one another. And that we can naturally, as human beings, we can naturally sort of know when we're not okay, and then do our very utmost to prevent spreading it on. But naturally, that's how viruses work. And I did a lot of years in medical science early on in my life, so I'm not the most clued up person in the world. So don't ask me about tricky operations on like brain surgery or how to attach one's groin to how to attach one's groin back together. But
that's the next question.
I'm afraid I cannot solve those injuries. But no, I've got a funny feeling. Normally, humans transmit things from one another, like messages on phones. So you tend to be sick one day, and then as soon as your immune system fights it, it goes off to somebody else. And someone vulnerable who cannot repel these, doesn't have the cells you need inside, will get rid of it. Won't be able to get rid of it as well as someone with a very strong immune system, for example. So, I'm all for staying on topic. Obviously, I'm all for keeping safe. Everyone avoids transmitting whether it's COVID-19, the virus, a cold, or whatever from one person to another. I just think this is too radical. I think this is just too much for trying to restrict people. And one is trying to restrict people from being able to do what they've been yearning to do now for nearly 2 years. Some people have missed this sort of whatever their daily habits are. If there is going out and dancing in the clubs all night, then yeah, sure, I get it. You want them not to. You don't want to be queuing for God knows how long to find out if you're able to go in because you may not be double jabbed, but you can go in because you're okay. Naturally, this digitalization thing of trying to ensure that you're fine isn't for me the way to go. We should be trusted, I think, because we've been trusted before to stay home and not do stupid stuff while the early stages of the pandemic were raging. I feel we should still be trusted to continue as it is, like this right now, and making sure that whatever happens, it happens. Yeah, I struggle to find the words, Alexei, to be honest. I really do. It's a catch-22, and
can you trust people though?
Not everyone. Take it from me. Standing inside at Wembley Stadium when it wasn't, and when it isn't exactly the amount of people that are supposed to be there, and the majority of them are pissed drunk, and also, God knows how much testosterone is running through them at the time of them breaking in, because that's what the majority of those were doing were doing at the time. Standing in there at that very moment, more or less reduced my trust in that essence on English football fans in some way. I also worry as well, obviously, with the season coming back, we have those fearsome derbies, the Liverpool Uniteds, the Arsenal Spurs, the Chelsea Tottenhams, for example, Liverpool Everton. Even I'll add, for the benefit of it, Rangers Celtic. When we get back to those proper hardcore derbies, you're not going to necessarily see people sort of looking out for one another in that way. We're going to return to those old habits where we would face up to one another, square up in front of our rival, and shout expletives at them about how bad their team is or whatever, and how one's relegation was more funnier than the other. It's practically going to be those old habits. And if it's what people are thriving for and they enjoy, then yeah, look, by all means, go for it. But yeah, if you're gonna use the fact that we obviously have advanced technology and also the ability to track one's information and ensure that they're not doing anything that they shouldn't be doing, or they have or if they've got data on them from years gone by that may have a role to play in deciding whether they deserve a chance to be watching football again or God knows what, then I feel it is harsh. For me, it's a harsh thing. It shouldn't be even considered. I can't understand. I'd be, for once, glad if it never came about, because you take away, I think, for a lot of people, the opportunity to put their minds off of, the stresses of life. But it is working on that.
Do you think a lot of people aren't getting vaccinated then? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that's also the case. I think you look on Twitter a lot, Alexei, if anything. You see what we in London have seen recently. Obviously, people are not happy with the idea of vaccine passports, majority of which have not had the vaccines yet, thinking it's still a flu, it's nothing, and it will go away in next to no time because it's it's just an inclement flu that flies through the air. I don't, we all know, and me firsthand know this now. I definitely can tell you, it is not an inclement flu. It does take a lot out of you. So,
Mm.
trust me when I say this, if you get it, you're going to be on the shelf for a little bit and it will hurt for a while. But as long as your immune system's strong and you can, fight through it, you'll be all right. That's my only guarantee. And just do just do everything that the doctors or the scientists specifically tell you to do. Because who knows what may happen the next time we have a pandemic like this, where it isn't as simple as staying home and avoiding one another to be able to defeat it. There are other viruses and illnesses out there that affect people on a daily basis, and I wouldn't in any way wish it on anyone. But I also stress this greatly. You want to make sure that you're as healthy as possible, you're as fit as possible, so that you can continue life to the maximum and not have to worry about the little things like whether we're going to be able to go to the pub and drink 2 or 3 beers from now on. So yeah, I would say vaccine passports are the devil's work. Should never come to life, and I urge people to get their vaccine. I'm going to get mine done next week. I've put it off for so long, not because I don't want to take it, more just because I've been so busy with the Euros, and now I've been isolating for so long because of close contacts. It's nigh on impossible to be able to go outside and take one. If they were doing like home visits, that would help me tenfold. But obviously, rules are rules. So, of course, it is its own challenge, but ultimately, you've got plenty of. I feel like you've got plenty of opportunities now to make a difference, and if you can handle being pronged, you'll be fine. Trust me, it'll be all right.
I mean, yeah, I've got my second one in a couple of weeks, and yeah, I think. I mean, when I got my first one, I was pleasant. Well, I wasn't actually that pleasantly surprised because it took me ages. But I went to this walk-in thing in Manchester. They sent everyone a text. I was there for like 5 hours because that many people had queued up to get it, which is really encouraging. And I echo what you said for people to get it, because I think it's the only way we're going to get out of this thing now. Like, it's the escape room. Because if we didn't have it, we wouldn't ever be getting out of this mess, to be honest.
Absolutely.
We'd be in and out permanently. But I mean, the thing is with these vaccine passport stuff is this government changes its mind so much that it wouldn't surprise me if by tomorrow they've shelved it. They've done a massive U-turn.
Typical, really.
They've done so many U-turns in this thing. They've been awful. They've been really incompetent. Like on the Friday, we're not sacking Matt Hancock. Saturday night, Matt Hancock resigns. Monday, Boris Johnson was like, "Yeah, we were always going to sack him." No, you weren't. And it's just lies and deceit at every turn. So I don't anymore get too worked up or stressed by the things they say they're going to do, because I presume they're not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to remember, a few weeks ago, the front of all the newspapers was no vaccine passports, freedom, it's all going to be fine. A few weeks on, it's we're in trouble again. Don't go to clubs, or go to clubs cautiously, or whatever they're trying to tell us now.
Yeah.
So you just can't trust anything this lot say. Obviously, it will be interesting to see what happens with vaccine passports. I hope if it does happen that they put things in place for people who can't use digital, like phones, basically, who can't use phones. Goes a way that they can still get in through, paper certification. But yeah, it's just weird times, isn't it? I mean, that's not meant to come until the end of September, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Which you could argue is closing the door after the horse has bolted a bit.
Exactly.
That's been their whole approach, hasn't it? So, they do things seemingly later than everyone else. But I mean, are you in kind of separate. Are you thinking of getting to games this season at all? Or?
Well, this is my schedule is a mess, Alexei. Surprise, surprise. For the benefit of doubt, yes, I do more than just this, everybody. My general role is I commentate for Sutton United who are in the professional, legit professional leagues. They're in the 4th tier, which is not well, I would say it's well followed, but it's not the most popular league. It is, in our country, used by Sky Sports as a stumbling block. I can just see Radimir Falcao appear on my screen there for Galatasaray. Sorry, just suddenly gave me flashbacks to a bad time. Yeah, he's on the bench. They're losing 2-1 at the moment in this Champions League qualifier, which I've taken great interest in. But no, it's for me. I feel that we could. You have to ask me the question again because I forgot what I've got how I'm going to answer it because I've got so distracted by looking at Falcao's. He's a handsome man, let's say that much. But it's a bad memories have just come up in my head about a time when a certain Dutchman we just referred to had him in his team. Oh.
Didn't go too well, that did it? Really?
No. Please ask me again.
Are you going to get 20 games next season?
Okay, so yeah. So I've got my hands in many boxes. I've got a commentary role. I've got to do some matches for UEFA. I'm thinking that hopefully in the Champions League, if not, a new adventure is a good one. It's an excuse to go out of the UK for a bit. But they're all, I'm definitely going to be going to a few games. If we're talking about Manchester United, my general hope is, and now more or less my preferential choice is the European games. I like Premier League matches, the high stakes games against the Cities, the Liverpools. I've not done one of those. I've done an Arsenal and a Chelsea, but I've not done a Liverpool or Man City before. For me, this season I feel will be a tricky one because everyone want to see United in person on a big night out, in big Sunday night out. Well, that's a great goal. There's some matches I'm probably going to say no to because I've got to do other things. So my realistic aim is if I'm free and United play, I go. If I somewhat encounter them on an away trip in Europe, this is my main hope because European aways with Manchester United are some of the best things you could possibly do as a fan. I believe, Alexei, you've had plans previously to go to some European games away from England.
Yeah, I've never been able to do it though. It's just not been possible, but I would. Yeah, I'd love to, especially after like the pandemic and stuff. It just makes you want to do it more, doesn't it? Like, yeah. Like I think like away at Ajax or something, or at Barcelona, just be like,
wow. I was talking about this today. I would love. I know it's a bit of a out there one, but I'd love to go to a Belgrade derby. That was one of the most that's a cauldron of madness. That game is a cauldron of madness. You could not imagine the scenes, the excitement, the stupidity that's involved with organizing one of those games. I'd go there just for the fact that it's such a derby. It's a dangerous place to go, Belgrade, in the first place, but I think it's worth going to the Maracanã or Partizan's ground just for that. And having been to Old Trafford, having been at Old Trafford when Partizan fans were there, they were fantastic. They were great fans. They were wonderful. They were wonderful.
Yeah, I was there. I think I was there as well. That was last year, wasn't it?
2019. It's the one where Martial skips through 2 or 3 and then pokes it home. I was behind the goal for that one. It was a very good goal.
Yeah, I remember that one. I remember it's pouring with rain.
Yeah.
And I literally got there just in time because I got the bus a bit too late and I was stuck in traffic and I just got out and just ran because it just gets so blocked that eventually there's no point trying to get a bus or a car there. You've just got to
run it.
Yeah.
I think I got there with 25 minutes to kick off. I left London. I hadn't planned to leave so late, but it was one of those where the trains were so busy and I had to sort of find a bit more cash to get the train. So I had to sell off a couple of things to a pawn shop and get that money to get the train up to Manchester. It was a slower one as well. But once I got there, it was 25 minutes to kick off. So the minute I got to Manchester Piccadilly, it was the first tram I see, I'm getting on it. Don't pay for it. Just get on it and get to Old Trafford. And thankfully, I got there just in time, enough to like sort of, relax a bit. Don't panic. Just get your ticket out.
Yeah.
In you go. We'll be fine.
It's the worst. It's literally like my worst anxiety thing, that being late to a football match. It's terrifying, isn't it?
Oh, I've done badly as a commentator compared to being a fan. I'm not going to lie to you. The latest I've been as a commentator. Now, hold on. I'm going to learn obviously a bit more about time management as my time as a man involved in football will go on. But I find that I am extremely early to the airport for a trip in Europe, but I am almost ridiculously late for a game in the UK. That is how bad this gets. So the latest I've been was last season. There was a game in Weymouth for Sutton, and Weymouth from here in London. You're living in Cornwall, so I'm assuming it's quite a distance. But Weymouth from London is a 3-hour train journey. Logistically, a fast train would get there in 2 hours 10 minutes, but the problem was there were no trains that were going fast enough to get to Weymouth before kickoff. And I had left at 11:30 thinking I'm leaving 3.5 hours for kickoff. If I am late for this game, something dramatically wrong has happened. Sure enough, the local trains I take to get to the main stations were not available. So I had to cheat and go another long way to get somewhere like Wimbledon. And then from Wimbledon, it was the fast train all the way down to, I think it was like Winchester, Weymouth. Weymouth was, I got to Weymouth about 3:10. I only got access to the ground for like 20 minutes after the match had started. And I couldn't commentate because somebody else was already doing it from a remote location just for that first half. Mate, I was absolutely flustered. You don't want to imagine it.
Honestly, the stress must have been through the roof.
Oh, no, mate. It's a horrible feeling. Like, being late to any game is bad.
There's something quite powerless about being late for something but being stuck on a train, because there's nothing you can do. Because at least, like, what I was saying earlier about like being stuck on a bus, at least when you're on a bus, you can just get out and leg it if you have to.
Yeah.
But if you're on a train and it's far, you're just so powerless. Like,
it's too far.
You're getting stressed about it. But there's nothing you can actually do. Like, to help, you're just screwed, really. You're at
the mercy of either the driver absolutely bolting it down the line without no remorse for whatever happens around him. That's the only that, or the game is delayed by 2 hours or something, just because
or something.
Yeah, or someone's run on the pitch and snapped the goalpost in half or something like that. I don't know. So
what I always hate as well was like, like you have to change trains and you only have 5 minutes to change, and you're thinking, okay, this is going to be hard. And then the driver just goes, "We are currently running 10 minutes late," and you're like, "Oh dear,
God's sakes!" It is
I've had it
a
in
problem.
Birmingham before so many times, because I have to change at Birmingham to get back to my flat in Manchester, and it's always about a minute I have there. 2 minutes. So I literally, every time I'm really stressed, and then I have to absolutely peg it. And I don't know if you've ever been to Birmingham New Street Station.
Yeah.
But it's not fun. There's barriers within the station. So
Which split you from one platform to another, yeah.
It's ridiculous. I've never seen that before. So even though you're already in the station, you have to put your ticket through. Now, if you're running to change trains, that is unbelievably stressful. And especially when, like in my case, your QR code thing doesn't scan on your phone. And they don't let you through. And it's awful. Honestly, I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
No, I wouldn't. I think we safely have to assume we can never want anyone to experience what we experienced on a basis where we're desperate to get from one end of England to another just to follow our team. So sometimes I'm a bit more graceful or less worried when United are in London. I get the old joke when it comes to, there's more United fans in London, blah, 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 blah. But bloody hell, it's easier than flipping, praying that Avanti's line doesn't go down halfway across from London to Birmingham or something when the match is an hour away. Good Lord, it's a horrible feeling, honestly, horrible.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of like like first world problems that are going to come back now. COVID's relatively easy, and we've got this Freedom Day stuff. We're going to start worrying about stuff like being late for football matches and missing trains. I mean, it's going to be a good problem to have, isn't it? In a way, like but being able to have your main problem as being late for a football match is a good problem to have now. Like I take that, but it's still. I mean, have you heard? You're saying about getting the tram. There's now a tram stop right outside Old Trafford. They've built over the pandemic.
Thank God.
So where like do you know where the Premier Inn is next to Old Trafford? So if you literally just walk down about 50, not 50, like about 10 meters from there, it's like the river, and it's literally the station's there.
I like the sound of that. I like the sound of that indeed.
So if you're in the centre, you can literally get a tram straight in to Old Trafford. It's brilliant, and obviously that will help with the congestion on match day and stuff. So that's an improvement for the next season, I guess.
That is a big improvement. I for one will exploit that as much as possible next season. I hope that we can. Well, it depends obviously on when we have match days. The trams are reliable, but I know they take ages on match days because of how many people are boarding them and specific stops. So for me, I'm just happy that there's one near Old Trafford now, and there's no stress for us to walk. I think what we used to do is walk from the cricket ground all the way up towards East Stand. And because I love sitting in East Stand because it's easier to get out and straight back down to the station. I find that to be the most, effective thing to do. Just popping up, see the graphic there, because it looks like they're making some changes. Galatasaray, they're still having a bad night tonight, losing 3-1 in Holland. I'm happy Old Trafford has, sort of also had a few improvements since the nonsense we performed way back in April. Are you impressed, by the way, with this new? I know it's not dramatic, but are you impressed with these somewhat minute changes that Old Trafford's had recently? A paint job and all that jazz.
This shouldn't be something to be celebrated that they've put a bit of paint on. Like this should be a very basic requirement for a club, the finances. And also this reminds me of something else I want to bring up actually. I forgot about this. This whole thing about John Murtough, right? Don't get me wrong, I like the guy and respect him, right? But I have a very big problem, which I've said a bit on Twitter, that people think he's come in and solved everything. He doesn't do the negotiation still. It's Edward. It's not Edward, it's Matt Judge. Matt Judge has been there the whole time. Like Ed Woodward's been there. So people saying that John Murtough has come in and revolutionised everything, everything's going to be fine. It's not. The Glazers are still there. Matt Judge, who is a Glazer puppet, is still there. He's still negotiating stuff. Like nothing's actually changed. And I'm a bit worried now that our fan base is going to kind of just accept now. It's like, we've bought some shiny new players. We've got some director of football. Now everything's fine, but it's not. And there's still so many problems, isn't there?
It's a strange one for me. I think we have what I'd like to consider a catch-22 because we're getting some of what we want. And I say some. What I mean by some, I predominantly mean we're getting obviously the players Ollie's asked for. We're getting the quality signs we need, but off the pitch, there's a whole plethora of problems going on, i.e. the stadium. We've probably waxed lyrical about it. I mean, look, it's our home. We love it, but even I have been caught by drips from the roof all the way from like 350 meters into the sky. Water dripping onto the jacket or on my head. The little things like that. Or when we saw earlier on with, what was it, when journalists were reporting when matches were going on behind closed doors, the level of water that was coming down on their desks with the electronics there and everything. That alone is a worry. So I'm hoping they make, whatever they're doing, I hope it's not just one of those stick some tape and all that jazz on top of the roof and hopefully solve it, fix that problem properly. Just get whatever you can to make a temporary fix until we can properly sort out that roof. Get that done so we don't have to feel drips on our heads anymore.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think they should go down there with a full health and safety checklist. Honestly, there's bits of that
Mm,
stadium. Every time a goal goes in, like Stretford End, you feel like the roof could just fall in.
collapse at any
Really
time, yeah.
shake. Like it properly goes, and it's a very old, rusty roof.
Yeah, 20, how many years has it been here? 21 years now. We finished the East and Stretford End stands with
Mm,
roofs. Because I remember obviously Euro 96 we had the North stand done up for it. Following that, we stuck with that set up until 1998, which I think was the earliest. I think that was then it started to sort of mold up a bit more into the East Stand having that extra tier. Then a few months later, I remember the Real Madrid game when we lost 3-2. I know Raul bossed it that night. I remember that West Stand was getting a bit of a cleanup as well. But I think the early 2000, like mid 2000, it was done. And it had obviously another improvement in 2005, 2006 because Glazers money and all that, blah blah blah. Yeah, it looks like it could cave in. So this roof has only ever been like fettered with a fair few times, but enough times to even be considered as like it may have been like fixed up a little too much to the point where it may need to be improved. I do worry, obviously, it costs a bit to fix a roof at Old Trafford, and even if we did, we would need to have the planning permission to sort out the South Stand because of the fact it is probably the most derelict. It's not the worst stand, but the most derelict in terms of setup. So
I always feel a bit weird when I'm sat in the South Stand, like because before I got my season ticket, I used to sit there fair amount, to be fair, and it just feels it's a bit odd in there, isn't it? It's kind of the only section of the stadium, I think, where people look at you if you cheer in like a kind of why are you cheering type thing,
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
It's a very strange stand, and obviously it's very, very small. It's only like one kind of row, really, isn't it? One that lower. Very strange atmosphere. Whereas I think Stretford End obviously is amazing. East Stand is really good as well, but South Stand it's just something a bit weird about it. I don't know what it is. Strange vibe, isn't there? I guess
It is very weird.
It's because it's near all the posh seats, probably, isn't it? So it's just more kind of watered down a bit, I guess.
Yeah, and the players' families are sitting nearby, and you'll take stock from this, but I think at some point we would have sat on the closest side to where they were. So for me, it was the Arsenal game in 2018, where I sat in the South Stand close by the players, the family stand. So the majority, obviously, of the players' families, or just families of who've paid for tickets to sit there normally, were next door, and it felt different there compared to when I next went in the East Stand for the PSG game in February, where that felt a lot more raw. It felt a little bit more like I'm in a proper side now rather than the South Stand. And that's not to say, obviously, we're all there for the same reason, but yeah, it's a bit more eerie down that side of Old Trafford.
You hit the nail on the head there. Like it just feels more raw, doesn't it? In like East End and Stretford End, like you just feel a bit more like, okay, I'm at a football match and you're singing and stuff, and it just feels a bit more. I don't know. I mean, I used to think as well, like sitting in the middle bit, like South Stand area, was better view. But I've realised I really love sitting behind the goal now.
Yeah, because I know. You're sucking the ball in. That's the practice of it. You're there to make sure the ball goes in the net. And you're hoping that the person between yourself, literally you, the person that's standing underneath the three sticks, isn't stopping it from going in. And there have been occasions where I felt like I played a part in the ball going into the net. And I keep saying this game, but it was the last match I saw Man United play with my own two eyes, was the Club Brugge game. Because I felt that night we scored three. They scored 3 goals in the East Stand in the first half through Fernandes, McTominay, and Igalo. And on Igalo, I know his first goal for United as well. I felt so lucky to be there. Those goals, I felt like I sucked the ball into the net behind the goal there, and those for me felt like moments which were epitomizing what it's like to be a United fan. And it's why, obviously, now I have a stronger affection for the Europa League. So, I'll stand by what I said earlier on, Alexei, when we last spoke about said Europa League. But
You like it.
I love it. It's fun. It's real fun. But yeah, put it this way. Regardless of that, for me, just that night alone had a feeling of gratification about how we not only treated the game and how well we played, but because we're standing behind the respective goals, you are doing the job of making sure, regardless of what happens, you suck that ball in. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. You have the next opportunity and the next one after that. So make sure it goes in the net. So, away game's fun and all that as long as you're behind the goal. But if you're not there behind the goal, it ain't going to have that effect. So, big fan of that.
It does, like you said, it does feel like that sometimes, that you're kind of literally just like, you feel like you're playing a part in the scoring. I mean, the part for me, like, I always go on about this game, but it's kind of like with you, like you were saying, because it's the last one I saw, that McTominay goal against City. I mean, the atmosphere of that, it did feel like the fans scored it. Like, the way it went down,
We all shouted shoot, I think. I wasn't there, but I could hear through my headphones, I could hear the word shoot the minute it came towards McTominay's foot.
There's like that few seconds where it was I mean, I just thought he blasted it over, and I was kind of watching it. I was like, it's going in. And then, really weirdly, the next goal I saw at Old Trafford was Cavani's goal against Fulham.
Yes.
From the halfway line. So, the last two goals I've seen,
you've been spoiled. You've been spoiled for goals.
Don't be surprised if we score from the halfway line against Leeds.
Well, I'm throwing odds on Fernandes or Rashford to have a go from there, at the very least. If not Rashford, lofty ambition, I'll say, who would start the game and have a go? I'd say Fernandes, or seeing as he loves scoring goals recently, Luke Shaw. Go on then. Luke Shaw from inside his own half, just on the edge there, bending one into the far corner. He likes scoring goals, so I can see why he wouldn't want to be ruled out on that front.
That'd be good, wouldn't it?
That would be good. Him from inside his own half. Let's talk about him actually, very quickly. First of all, your emotion when he scored the goal against Italy, but also how, because I feel like, because I'm watching Eindhoven right now, and it sort of obviously brings me back to the night, unfortunately, where Hector Moreno snapped him in half, and the comeback he's been on since then. What for you epitomizes Luke Shaw now that we didn't really see from him earlier on in his career?
Luck, in a way, in the sense that he's been fit a lot more. It's a consequence of very good man management of him from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think Ole is probably arguably the biggest denominator in Shaw being this good. I think Southgate's been quite good with Shaw as well. And he's just stepped up a level. But the thing is, everyone was slagging him off when he was only 21. Footballers generally aren't at their peak until, he's 26, about 26 generally. So he's just kind of followed the usual football trajectory. He's just been brilliant. And obviously only a few players have scored for England in a final. I think it's 3, is it, including him?
Jeff Hurst. Trying to think of who else. I think Jeff Hurst, Luke Shaw, whoever the other player that scored in the 66 Cup final escapes me. But Martin Peters, there we go. So Martin Peters, to Jeff Hurst, and Luke Shaw. Only 3 players have scored for England in a major finals. So it's a minimal, but it's a small but elite club. And I think of all the players we'd have thought to have scored in a European Championship final, for him to do it,
that's incredible.
It's amazing.
It was such a good goal as well. But yeah, I think we better wrap up now, just because I have to be up in not a few hours, but relatively soon, as I'm starting work at 7 a.m. tomorrow.
One would not blame you at all, Alexei, for the early start. But as always, an honor and a privilege. I thoroughly enjoy these waffle sessions. The next one we do, we're going to preview United season a lot more properly because I think by then we'll have a clear indication of whether Varane has signed or not. And also, we didn't even touch on that tonight so much, but we'll probably have a clear indication whether he signed or not, or even 2 or 3 other different matters that are out of our control at the moment, but we'll hope to cover very, very soon, I'm sure. Alexei, mate. We have, from vaccine passports, to the funny nonsense about our government here in the UK, to the Trainline app and all that nonsense. Watch Luke Shaw's rise to the prominence. We've covered a fair bit this evening, but we're definitely going to profile United season a lot more in the coming weeks when Alexei's next available. That is, he's a very busy man. Getting him on now is like trying to find celebrities to get on your show. So it's hard. But thanks a lot, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this waffle session. We're going to do another one very, very soon when Alexei's available. If you want more of this, please like and subscribe. There's a transfer talk coming out from me tomorrow, one with a bit of an update on, obviously, aforementioned Varane situation, other targets, i.e. Trippier, Rice, this midfield jargon battle that's going on, which tonight was plaguing, I'm sure, many of our minds, but we'll definitely talk about that soon as well. But that's what's coming up here on the Transfer Talk, so do stick with us for more. And until the next one, everyone, we hope you take care. Like and subscribe if you want to see more of this lovely nonsense, and we'll be back very soon. Until then, enjoy what